What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Good, the Bad and the Stupid. It's Friday the 27th of December. Merry Christmas, or post-Merry Christmas to you, or Boxing Day. It's now Weird Friday, that weird working day that they've crammed in between the Boxing Day, between the bank holiday and the weekend. A lot of you have had to go to work or will be going to work today. At least it's one day, so you'll go in and do jack all, won't you? I mean, I've sat at home and done jack all today, but it's been well deserved because I've been running around for 4 or 5 days. So this is why I didn't get to do one or two of the episodes last week, because in all my good intentions I was going to do it on the road, but I've been busy. You don't realise, you're running around trying to visit people, living out of a bag, getting kicked out of hotels, mind you. I booked into a hotel one night, and when I got up to the door to check in, 11:30 on the night, I was told I couldn't stay there because I had no photo identification. I've stayed there many times before. Now they decided to be steadfast and refuse entry. And I said, well, I'm meant to go at 11:30 on the night. And they said they didn't give a shit, basically. If you got no photo ID, stay. So that's Britannia in Birmingham. So Britannia hotels in Birmingham, go fuck yourselves, because I can't be bothered to go through your complaint process because you don't answer anyway. I've had it before. So unfortunately, I managed to find one around the corner who accommodated me without any hassle, and that was all good and fine. So otherwise I would have been sleeping in the car park, no thanks to them. But there was a great thing going on in the Birmingham Bullring as I walked through. They had a massive big homeless meal for the homeless, should I say, in the train station in the Grand Central. And it was like they had a band there, they had like a choir, they had all the sort of hundreds of tables. There was lots of activities going on, and loads of homeless people were allowed in and were given meal and the party and the a great old Christmas do, if you like. So that was great to see. It's a shame those people have got to go back to where they as they were, because you hope there would be some kind of Santa Claus guy going there. There you go. There's like a few weeks accommodation. There's a few weeks accommodation. There's a few weeks accommodation. Unfortunately, they can't afford that. So the meal and the party was probably as good as it got. But it looked great anyway. I stood and watched it for about 25 minutes. And to be honest, I wanted to get involved. I would like to have sat down and be part of it, but I had to get on. I was still doing my Christmas shopping. I think that was Christmas Eve. I was still doing my Christmas shopping. If you listen to my podcast the other day, where I smashed my Christmas a litre bottle of chili sauce, but I bought somebody for Christmas, over all my other presents, and I ruined them, so I had to rebuy some Christmas presents, and I did that on Christmas Eve. My usual situation. So anyway, it's a slow news day today, so I'm gonna cobble one together. It might not be as long as the others, you might well be pleased to hear. But it's just like the new. Oh, there was a rap. I forgot to take the guy's name now. Maybe I'll have to check back in another podcast. But there was a rapper who was doing his good deed on the back of that homeless story there. He was kind of doing a good deed, but he was stood on a car in some poor homeless area of was it LA? I can't remember where it was now, but he was stood on top of a car with big wads of cash, and he was chucking it all out into the air, and all the poor were running around trying to catch the money, trying to catch the cash, which in and of itself, catching a lot of that cash would have been absolutely fucking amazing if anybody who's poor and they managed to get hold of any of that. But making people, or peasants if you like, the way you were projecting the situation, scramble around for your money like you're some sort of fucking god that's come down to sort of make their day, or lick your boots and all that kind of shit, wasn't it? So I can't remember the guy's name, so it's a shame. But if you watch it, look out for the video. He's a fucking arsehole, basically. He could have just forget the cameras. He could have just gave them the money, or he could have just had the cameras and gave them the money and said Merry Christmas, rather than let people punch each other and fucking scrap. Because there's people scrambling around for money, and there's people who are desperate. You know, that money is worth smacking somebody in the face over, isn't it? So anyway, I didn't really see that was much of more of a publicity stunt for him. Backfired a bit because I think people didn't really take to it either, same as me. So I mean, come and chuck money at me anytime you like. I'll fucking scramble around for it, but I ain't gonna fight homeless people for it. That's for sure. Parents of poorly free parking is coming to NHS hospitals as a it's coming to part of the like blue badge holders, regular outpatients, and night shift staff will also be exempt from fees. Parents of poorly kids, basically, who have to spend the night in hospital. That's good. I mean, but I'm saying that you should have. I said the other day, it should be free parking for all fucking people visiting the hospital. You visit the hospital, you're visiting because you're ill, and the last thing you want is to have to. Imagine if you're sitting in A&E for 5 hours and you've only put 2 hours on the car park at £4 an hour, according to Guildford. So you put two hours on, say £4 an hour, and then you're in there and you're not even left the waiting room past 3 hours, and you've not even been seen yet. Next thing you know, you got a fine and you got to go through jump through hoops trying to fucking deal with that. So I think it's just wrong paying for parking at the car parks. And if you're anything like me, I'll just park. I mean, obviously there's a difference between having to go to A&E and like you probably can't do what I'm about to tell you, but I always just find the nearest road that's free parking and dump it there and then walk, especially if you're visiting someone, because you don't know how long you're going to be there. You can't just be going, I'm only here for like, by the time you've walked all the way up the stairs and that and got to their bed, you're like, I've got to leave in a minute. I've only put 2 hours in the car park. It's took me fucking half an hour to find your room. Because them in the hospitals, when you're looking for people in the hospitals when you haven't been for the first time, you can't find them, can you? There's so many different sort of nooks and crannies and alleyways and corridors. Anyway, let's have more free parking. Let's have let's champion free parking. It's good for the people who've got it anyway. So far, but I think more needs to be done on that. If you ask my very well deserved opinion. Boise out of Only Fools. I watched Only Fools and Horses last night. That was my. I watched the very first episode of Only Fools and Horses, and I mean, I know people say that I'm a bit like Del Boy, buying and selling stuff and whatever, but I couldn't believe how much it was like me in the living room and that, with all the shit all over the living room. I think, Rodney read out a list of the very first episode it was, and Rodney read out a list of things that had been down to the auction and bought that they were going to sell, and it just read off like a list of things that are still in my garage that I can't fucking sell. So yeah, it was good fun watching it, but it was almost like looking in the mirror. Only Fools and Horses legend John Chalice, the reason I've mentioned that was Boise out of Only Fools and Horses. Apparently he's good friends with Ice-T, Ice-T the rapper in LA or in America. They've been saying Merry Christmas to each other over Twitter. I mean, that's as far as it's gone, but everyone's jumping on going, how does Boise out of Only Fools and Horses know Ice-T? You know, it's like a strange friendship, isn't it? He said, Merry Christmas, John, Ice-T said, and John Chalice said, Merry Christmas to you, Coco and Chanel. Who's Coco and Chanel? That is kids' names, I guess. Sounds like perfumes, doesn't it? But anyway, he's like apparently a fan of the show that Ice-T is in called Final Level or something or other like that. Anyway, strange friendships. Boise and Ice-T. Maybe they'll come out with a song or something next year, or a TV programme. You never know. Watch this space. Now everybody knows about it. Boxing Day hunts. Oh, the fox hunting's out in force today. There's been over 80 different Boxing Day hunt meetings taking place, and apparently they still just go out and hunt for fox. You know, do as they fucking please, basically. So they ignore the ban. It's quite mad, really, and I just don't see what is interesting about it, or what is like how they can get a hard on over chasing a fucking fox around a field. You know, it's like. It's a weird kind of. It's very us and them, isn't it? Is it those kind of people are just them and them alone. Only they think like that, and they kind of. But it's amazing how much the countryside is. If you fly over England, and you look at the land, something like I think they said like 85% of it is farmland or is like countryside. So we live on about 15. Oh, let's go to 20% of the land. So we hardly like, considering how many people and how packed we are, apparently, we only live on 20% of the land. The rest of it is all countryside and farm owned. So these all landowners and all the kind of, this is why they've got such a big clout, and they, they've got their own way of life and that, haven't they? And they've got so much kind of, they do as they please because they fucking own most of the place. And that's their attitude, I think. So, and then you've got another guy who battered a fox to death. I mean, they're chasing foxes, but they're meant to be doing it without trying to kill them. But you can pretty much guarantee they are. There was a guy who was he's a barrister. Where is it? It's here somewhere. Oh, here he is. The barrister who's apologised after putting on social media that he. How's your day going? I've killed a fox. No. I've already this morning I have killed a fox with a baseball bat. How's your Boxing Day going? So that's nice because he's got some chickens on his place, and the fox came down and got stuck in the fence, and then he's backtracked and said he didn't enjoy killing it, but he didn't know what else to do because he got caught in his protective netting. Well, you could have let it go. Basically, couldn't you? He didn't have to smash its head in with a fucking baseball bat. You could have let the guy go, and you don't want it to eat your chickens and that, but you've saved them at that particular moment, and then you've got a choice between being a fucking arsehole and smashing an defenceless animal whose instinct is to go for food, smashing its head in with a baseball bat, or letting it go, and you chose to be the arsehole. There you go, a barrister with all the money in the world, with very little morals, let's say that. Okay, we're going to go on to, Premier. I've had this happen, not quite this, but Michail Antonio from West Ham, he drove his Lamborghini. I'm going to show you to the video here. If you're watching the podcast, I'm showing a video of a Lamborghini not upside down, but it's smashed through somebody's front garden and it's wrecked the garden, wrecked the car, and it's landed on the garden. Apparently, it's on Christmas Day when people sat down for dinner. He's like smashed straight into their front garden, dressed as a snowman, and they basically said that he left without even apologising. So that's fucking charming, isn't it? There's the Christmas spirit right there. He smashed his car over their garden, was more concerned about his car and fucked off than he was about apologising and ruining their Christmas. The reason I say I've had that happen to me before is because once upon a time on the estate that I grew up on, I had a stolen car land on my fucking front garden as well, and literally nearly went through the front wall where I was sitting, just about to watch Only Fools and Horses Christmas special, and a stolen car nearly came through the window. So I had to go out and get some neighbours to help me push it off the garden, and so that ain't no fun, I can tell you. So I think get onto Twitter, get onto Michail Antonio and say fucking apologise to these people. At least give them some money, Be like that rapper and go and chuck a few wads of cash down there through their letterbox or something. You've got enough. If you can afford a Lamborghini, maybe you can't now. You just smashed it up. It's mad, isn't it? He's obviously, how old is he? 29. I thought he was going to be like 21 or something then, but 29, Lamborghini, another world, isn't it? This time next year, Rodney and Wayne. This time next year, when I sort out all the shit in my garage, a hero. Oh yeah, because I don't just do this podcast. I'm not making all my millions. Doesn't come from this podcast. That's for sure. A council has been slammed for busting a market trader who sells rude chocolate bars. The stallholder used labels including Twix, Kit Kat, Minstrels and Fudge to make mashups, saying twat and minge. and off duty. Fuck you now. This is the kind of shit you find in like them joke sex shop type places anyway, And this off-duty trading standard officer Oh, he's like Blakey off on the buses, isn't he? Or fucking somebody. He's come down and he's like, and fake Wonka bars or whatever. How can you call how can you make Wonka rude, or is that rude already? Wonka could be if you go anyway. He's got a anyway. He's told him and he's had to stop selling the stuff. So fucking that would probably would have sold out of them and would have made his Christmas. You've ruined it, you fucking arsehole. One woman who's done a good deed was somebody who stopped a load of, let's just not call them even criminals. Well, what would you call them? These guys have robbed 10 boxes of what are they called? Quality Street. Oh, Cadbury's Roses. They ran out of Tesco's with a load of boxes of Cadbury's Roses, and we're going to drive out the car park. Armed robbery of the year, that is, isn't it? And they and she's blocked them from getting out of the car park, so they had to hand them all back through the window. So no arrests had been made. Tesco's were happy to have the roses back, but this woman was basically being stubborn, and they were that dumb. It was hardly the crime of the century. They literally just went, "Oh, sorry about that," and gave the roses back. So they've gone off embarrassed with their tail between their legs. And we're talking about them here, laughing at you. We're laughing at you because you're stupid. Snowflakes have no right to be offended. I couldn't get my head around this statement. Snowflakes have no right not to be offended, a top judge has said. He's defended freedom of speech and said it was dangerous not to discuss touchy subjects in a democratic society. If you're the victim of something that is deeply offensive, it is the most unpleasant, uncomfortable thing that you can imagine. But what we have to acknowledge is that in striking the right balance in this country, there is no right not to be offended. What does that mean? I'm trying to work that out. I think he's trying to say that you've got a right to discuss it, but you've got no right to be offended. I haven't even got time. I should have figured that one out, but I can't figure that out. You've got no right not to be offended. You've got no right to not be offended, not to be offended. Oh, so you should be offended, is what he's saying. I think he's saying that you should be offended. You've got no right not to be offended, so you should be offended. But he's also telling them to piss off, so I don't understand how it works. Anyway, get back to me. I know you won't, but get back to me on the jungle drums. Tell me how that one works, because he's basically saying it's time that they flaked off, according to this. Snowflakes have no right not to be offended. So the bottom line is that you're pissing people off with your offence, but you can still be offended, I think is the gist of that one. Where are we? I'm going to finish up on a couple more then. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. The taste of coffee depends on the mug, with a rough one leaving a bitter aftertaste after a smooth one making it sweeter, scientists in Brazil have found. Okay, what about having to use the same filter bag or whatever 3 days on the trot because I forgot to go to the shop and buy one? I can tell you that makes the coffee taste even shitter than the mug that you're drinking it out of. I thought it was just me, but now it might be my mugs as well, because I've got some I've got mugs that, the mugs that don't match. I'm like the Alan Partridge one, when you're giving people out a drink and it's one, everyone's got a different one. Somebody's got the aerolator out the washing machine. That was fucking hilarious. So not quite that bad, but I should, next Christmas presents, somebody can stop, can think about this right now. Buy me a set of mugs this time next year, because I'll never buy them myself. Christmas miracle. Children who woke up on Christmas Day to find all their presents stolen have had them returned. The family from Manchester. That's just fucking bullshit. How can you burgle somebody on Christmas Eve? You know what I mean? You deserve to have your fucking bollocks stapled to a fucking the back of a Lamborghini and dragged through a load of front gardens. That's what I say. You deserve to, at the very least, be named and shamed. Anyway, somebody has been caught and charged, and they've got all the presents back, so that's made their day. But that is just a fucking callous, the most scummiest of scum things to do. So, 29-year-old from Bolton, if you know who he is, go and give him a slap. Give him a kick in the bollocks from me. Last two. the Boxing Day. Everyone go out in the smart. There was massive queues around Boxing Day for the sales, weren't they? Crazy. 6 a.m. in the morning, queuing up at Next, and I don't get it. I really do not get it. I mean, like, it ain't that special anyway. Half them places, are they? And like the queuing round the block at 6 in the morning. I mean, even at the back of the queue, they're hoping half the stuff would have been gone by the time they get in. But it's like, is the stuff really that sought after that you're going to queue up like that in the pissing down the rain? I imagine you can get most of it online for the same sale price. So use your noggin, sit at home watching the TV, and just book it through the Next website. There you go, you're getting all the tips here. Last one I'm going to do is a tortoise who was pissed off at being left home alone on his own on Christmas Day, set fire to the house by knocking over his heat lamp. He was home alone, and he set fire to its bedding, which set off the alarms, and neighbours alerted firefighters, who put out the flames and cleared the smoke-logged house. So the 45-year-old tortoise, he might just be given a reprieve if the family have got any kind of Christmas spirit about him, because he's basically burnt their house down or damaged it, probably quite irreparably. You think they would be like sending him straight, this whole tortoise is not just for Christmas, but they've had it 45 years, so he's almost a part of the furniture, so they might just let him stick around, but I don't think he's going to be left alone on his own anytime soon. He'll be stuck out in the garden, a little tortoise shed for you, I'm afraid. What's his name? No, they've not even given his name. Everyone's that pissed off they've not even named him, because he might have a nice cuddly name like Touche Turtle or Tommy the Tortoise or something like that, but nobody's talking to him at the moment. I don't think everyone's very happy with him. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Trying to get back into the swing of it. We do some more. Where are we? Friday. I'll probably see you again on Monday. So have a great weekend. I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.